Hey, this is Fayette Williams, and today we are planning a case for immediate implants and teeth on a fibula jaw reconstruction. And this is a guy with squamous cell carcinoma on the lingual mandible, and he's getting a resection from molar to molar with a fibula in three pieces, and we're going to plan for immediate implants and immediate teeth. So after the virtual surgical planning, we're opening up. This is the Blue Sky Plan software, and when you first open it, you get to this screen. And so at the bottom left, we want to choose this model editing and click that. Then this next screen, go over to the right to import models. And the models we're going to import are from the virtual surgical planning session. These are the digital STL files sent to you. And so what I'm doing is holding the control button on my keyboard and selecting all of these models together. And I'm going to click OK. And then the next screen is going to ask us about alignment. And we're going to go to the bottom and we want to choose this skip alignment. And the reason is all of these models are already aligned when they are exported from the other software, from the 3D vendor that sent you these. So these digital STL files have an embedded coordinate system so that when you load them back up in other software, that's maintained. So I'm going to skip alignment here. And sure enough, looks like things are all aligned. And so and I'm actually going to get rid of the upper teeth. So this blue model, I'm over here in the surfaces panel on the far right. And if you don't have a surfaces panel, go up to the drop down menu up here where it says panels, and you'll be able to find it there. So these blue teeth, if I see these teeth here, I'm going to click this X to get rid of those because we actually don't need those. And so looking down, you can actually see this lingual mass here. The red ramus area, we actually don't need that, so I'm going to get rid of that too up here. So the goal of this is we want to take, this is an intraoral scan in yellow. We want to take this intraoral scan, and it's a shell right now. And we want to do a digital pour to make it a solid model. Then we're going to cut off the bottom part of it to have a little space above the fibula. And then using different software, we're going to make the holes where these virtual abutments are. And so to start the process here, we're going to do a digital pour of this yellow model. And to do that, we want to go over here. And then first of all, at the top, far top right, make sure in this, this says model editing. So you're going to choose the model editing module. And then down here in these panels, we want to choose model manipulation. There's model edit, it's not that one, but model manipulation. And again, if you don't have that, go up to this panels drop-down menu to find it. And so for the model manipulation, we're going to end up choosing this closed model. But first, with these panels, you want to start at the top and work your way down. And first of all, at the very top, we need to tell it which model are we working with. Now, right now, this green fibula is the chosen model. We don't want to mess with that. So I'm going to click this and choose these yellow teeth. So the next thing is make sure it knows it's the mandible, not the maxilla, because if you tell it it's the maxilla, it'll do a digital pour up in the opposite direction, which is kind of like an inverse mold. And we're kind of working our way down, and now we can do this close model. And when you click close model, it's going to actually make a new model. That is I think of it as a digital pour of this yellow model. And so there we go. That's our poured up model. So I'm going to go back to this surfaces panel. This yellow one, we actually don't need it anymore. So I'm going to click the X. Under visible, you can also just uncheck it. But I'm just going to click that X to make it go away. And so with this, we're going to trim things up a little bit. And we're going to trim across the bottom of this red to make a little space between the fibula and what will be the prosthesis. So what we're doing actually for the lower prosthesis, we're simply cloning his original teeth that are going to be removed to give him back the bite that he started with. And with this red chosen here, I'm going to go to this cut tool, and I'm going to draw a line across here to see if we're a little bit above the fibula where we should be. And we need to be a little bit more. And one thing I'm going to do is with this red model selected, I'm going to use this transparency slider like that. So you can kind of go back and forth, and I'm going to go somewhere like that where I can actually see these abutments. And what these are, let me turn off this green to show you for a minute. So this is a 3.75 by 13 millimeter implant, which is the most common implant that I use. This abutment above it is a virtual abutment that does not exist in the real world. The idea here is that, first of all, from the platform of the implant up to this top of the trumpet, that's 3.5 millimeters, which is the usual height of the straight multi-unit abutment that I use on these implants. And so that's a way you can know where's the top of that abutment going to be. This larger part is a cylinder that is 6 millimeters in diameter. The idea is that we're going to use that to subtract a 6 millimeter channel from the prosthesis, which allows the temporary coping to be centered, hopefully, in that hole for the pickup. So that's the purpose for this. So I'm going to go back and turn the green back on, turn the red back on. And so at the top of this trumpet area, that's where the temp coping sits. And I'd like to have that not buried completely inside the prosthesis. So what I'm going to do here is I'm choosing the red again, and I'm going to use this cut tool. And again, doing it where now I can kind of see where is where's the bottom of the temp coping going to be, to make sure those are not embedded up in the prosthesis. We're going to make a cut across here. Good. And that's probably pretty good there. So I made a cut where there's this little piece and maybe two little pieces out in space. I'm going to cut those out also to get rid of those. So now I think we have enough vertical space here. I'm going to, with this redstone model, make the transparency go away. And I'm going to cut off these second molars because I don't want that cantilever, especially on the provisional prosthesis. So looking from above, I'm going to draw something like this to cut off that second molar. And all right, so here's the error that we get often: mesh cut failed. So when this shows up, it gives you an option: don't show again. Do not click that box. You want to know about this error every time it happens. So don't click the box to make it not tell you again. So I'm going to click OK. And then I'm going to turn off this cut tool. And over here on the far right, I'm going to go to this model edit panel. And again, if you don't have it, go to the panels drop down menu to find it. And I'm going to tell it, so we're working with a red model. So again, we got to tell it at the top, which model are we working with? Start at the top and work your way down. And actually for this, I'm going to go to this close all holes. And here's what this error is. It's this error means that the mesh, which is the outer shell of the object, is not closed. And actually, so this area doesn't count because this abutment was sticking through anyway. But this area here and here and down here, we can actually see inside the model, and that's not good because we shouldn't have these holes like that. So if I click this close all holes, it should be able to close those off. So let's go. Good, it worked. And we'll deal with that a little later. And so, so where were we? We cut off that second molar. We need to cut off the second molar on the other side. And so I'm going to go back to the surfaces. This red model is chosen and use the cut tool. And these cantilevers, I usually look at them from above like this. Look straight down on them. And I'm going to do something like that to cut this off. Let's see if we get that error message again. Oh, yep, we do. So I'm going to click OK, turn off the cut, go to Model Edit. It's already on the red one. Close all holes, and we're done. So once you know how to do that, you can see that it's pretty rapid just to fix that. I'm also gonna, I'm gonna trim out some of this lingual right here, and also some of this actual tumor there. And I'm gonna do a little bit of that by do something like this. If you do a lot of different areas like that, it may be prone to give you that error again. Yeah, so I'm going to click OK, turn off the cut, Model Edit, close all holes, and we're done. And we're going to end up bulking up these areas around these implants a little bit here. I may trim off some of this lingual and actually the buccal also. So this cut is always made at the view you're looking at. So your cut is always made into the computer screen. So to make a cut along here, I'd like to make it kind of undercut slightly. And so when I look from above, I'm actually going to tilt it that way a little. Maybe a little much, but we'll see. And so if I kind of cut off that lingual aspect, yeah, that's not too bad there. So, and we've got these holes here. So edit, Model Edit, close all holes. Good, fix that. I'm going to do something similar on the buccal here to trim that back. And we're ultimately going to refine and smooth this in Mesh Mixer, but I do some of the bulk work here usually. Good, no error on that one. And so I think we'll leave it at that, and we're going to export these files, and I'm going to export, so we don't need the fibula, all we need is these 6 implants and these teeth. And so I'm going to turn off the fibula, because whatever you have shown on the screen here is what it exports, even though you can still change it when you, on the export screen. So under File, drop down menu, I'm going to go to this Export Data. And here's where I can change my mind and say I do want this fibula if you want to, but I'm going to unselect that, and very high quality, export, and this is where you want to export this into a location probably where your other files are so that you can find it easily. It may ask you sometimes if you it'll cost you an export. You have to say yes. And so now we're going to open this in Mesh Mixer. And for me, I just double click on that file because Mesh Mixer is the default software to open STL files. So this is one single file. When you export multiple STL files in Blue Sky, it creates a single file. So we need to separate these things out. We need to separate the implants from the teeth. And to do that, I'm going to come over here on the far left, Edit, and then this menu comes up. I'm going to go Separate Shells. And so this now separates all these into individual parts, and it gives you this objects browser, which is kind of like the surfaces panel in Blue Sky. And so you've got all these different objects here corresponding to something on the objects browser. So I'm going to keep this abutment cylinder, and this one is in several pieces. We want to keep this big abutment cylinder in the teeth, but get rid of these other pieces. And an easy way to do that is I'm just going to click on the implant so it's highlighted, and on my keyboard I'm going to click the delete key. In this part of this little virtual abutment, we're going to get it rid of. Delete on the keyboard. That, delete. So for each one of these, I'm just going through clicking and deleting on my keyboard here. And a lot of this is just because it's tough to really keep track of all the different files in this objects browser. And so we want to simplify things. So now we've got the teeth, which is the first thing at the top of the objects browser. So these other ones are the virtual abutments. And so the other thing I'm going to do to simplify things is I'm going to grab or select all 6 of these abutments and combine them as one file. And the way to do that is I'm going to click on one here, and then holding the control button down on my keyboard, I'm going to select on these other 5. So now I have all 6. And it gives you this window up here where you're going to choose this combine. And so now it kind of color codes a little bit, but now we have 2 shells. And so the next thing is we're going to do a little modification of these teeth. Now, ultimately, what we're trying to do here is these cylinders, we're going to subtract the space occupied by these cylinders from the teeth. So the cylinders are going to be turned into holes, which correspond with the implants and straight multi-unit abutments. So there's a little hole here. So if we subtract it here, it's going to make this hole out to the side. And I'd like to patch that in a little bit. So the first thing we're going to do is select the teeth, not the abutments, but select the teeth. And then over here on the left, Sculpt. And when you click Sculpt, you get a bunch of options and go to Brushes. And in Brushes, there's only 2 of these I ever use, Inflate and Shrink Smooth. And here we're going to use Inflate. So I'm going to click Inflate. And then for the size of this, I may make it a little bit smaller. I may turn down the strength a little bit here. So strength and size are really the only 2 settings I play with here. And it's going to ignore this abutment, and it's going to use this function to inflate the material in the teeth here. So I'm just kind of clicking and touching on that and kind of growing it out to the buckle a little bit just to cover that up. And that's probably all that we need there. Now the other thing is over here, we need to bulk up the lingual of some of these implants here just to have some strength in the prosthesis. And so I'm actually going to go up on the size on this, maybe the strength a little, and you just play with it. And so I'm going to grow this material out, and it's not this abutment, it's the tooth material or the prosthesis material buried inside this abutment. When I click, it's going to kind of ignore the abutment and grow it out towards into the lingual a little bit. So that's a easy way to bulk things up a little, and I'm going to do it for some of these other implants too. And it makes these little creases and cracks, and that's not a big deal. It's easy to smooth later. And this is just kind of adding some tissue because it's easiest to add tissue here, and then in a minute we're going to go back and smooth that off. We can probably do that now. So up here, and again, Sculpt, under the Sculpt menu, Brushes. Now we're going to do this Shrink Smooth. I'm going to turn the strength up to 100% and the size, let me shrink it a little, yeah. And so, on the buckle, we're going to use this just to go along here, and we made this sharp cut, and this is a way just to smooth things. You can always, you print, 3D print this, and then, pick up a burr or something, but it's kind of sloppy, and this is a way to try to have it all done digitally, so there's less you have to do after you print this. I'm just going around to all these different areas, and this is the shrink smooth tool. You know, and for stuff like this, I'm going to turn the strength way down and the size also. And you can just kind of go like that and smooth things off for, you know, we're just talking about a temporary here. And that doesn't look as good, but you get the idea. And so for all this bubbly stuff, and this can be kind of tougher here to play with, I'm going to smooth some of this stuff. Taking away a little bit too much probably. So I'm going to go to this brushes inflate tool. I'm going to do the inflate one more time here just to try to replace what I had removed. Yeah, the brushes, I'm going back to the shrink smooth. There we go. So I got that little dimple. Now we got rid of it. And so, because you get the idea there, once you've smoothed things off as you want it, then the last thing we're going to do is make the holes to subtract these abutments. And so before you do this Boolean subtraction, you have to do something called make solid. You got to make all the objects solid. And so with the teeth selected here, I'm going to go to edit and make solid. And the idea here is that this object is probably hollow, and so you want to fill it in so it's a solid object. Now, when I just did that, it kind of dumbs down the resolution a little bit and made it uglier. And so you want to go up here to fast and change this to accurate. And the solid accuracy slider here, just move that way up here. And we're going to click update. And that's going to bring back the majority of that lost resolution there. Good. And then we click accept. And when you click accept, it's made a new, so it didn't alter the original, it's made a new model, and it says solid right here. So we want to go to these abutments and do the same thing. So we choose the abutments and go under edit, make solid. Now for these, I'm going to leave it as fast just because it's just a geometric shape, and so we don't need it to be highly accurate. So I'm just going to click accept. So now we have two things that say solid. And these are the two we're going to use to do this Boolean function or Boolean difference. And Boolean basically means what do you do with the space occupied by two different objects. And we're going to do something called a Boolean difference, which is a Boolean function that is going to subtract these cylinders from the teeth to make holes. And so the way to do this is select the teeth first, and it's critical to select the teeth first, not the abutments. So the first thing is the teeth, because the first thing you select is what are you going to be subtracting from. Then I'm going to hold the control button down on my keyboard and choose this other one. And you get this menu, and you want to choose this Boolean difference. And when you do that, it creates those holes. Now, before you click accept, these two boxes, we want to uncheck both of these boxes. So uncheck preserve group borders, then uncheck auto reduce result. Then we click click the accept. And so now we have our prosthesis here that we can export and 3D print. There's some, there's some areas you can smooth. I would have made better, but before you export, click this analysis button and then go up to inspector. And there's no errors here under inspector, but if you do have errors, you'll have these little spheres or balls that pop up and tell you where they are. So, with this prosthesis now, we can go down to this export and just export the file to be 3D printed. And that's all we have. Thank you.